Welcome, everyone. I'm Ian Pravinsky, and I'm here with another episode of Art Through the Ages. Today, I've got a very special program for you. We're going to be talking about Spanish architect Antoni Gaudí. Let's get started.
Antonio Gaudí was born in 1852 in the city of Reus, which is in the northern region of Spain called Catalonia. He graduated from the Barcelona School of Architecture in 1878. Gaudí took much influence from French architect, his name Eugène Emmanuel Viollet-le-Duc, who was a Gothic revival architect. He was also interested in medieval architecture, and his early work reflects many Oriental techniques. But above all, Gaudí was influenced by religion and nature. He was, after all a modernist and an Art Nouveau architect. Art Nouveau was a movement that wanted to move away from machinery and industrialization in order to favor nature. And indeed, Gaudí was very influenced by the organic flow of nature and how it represented the glory of God. I'm going to focus on his most famous apartment building, built in Barcelona from 1905 to 1910. This is called the Casa Mila. The facade looks very much like a sculpture, meant to look like waves crashing one on top of the other. The building takes up most of the corner of the block and trickles down on either side. The facade is made of limestone, meant to be monochromatic, so that Gaudí really wanted the sun and the shadow to give the building life. The initial nickname for this building was La Pedrera, which means the quarry. And this nickname was given by people not in favor of this piece.
I'm sure when many people first saw this monstrosity of a building, they probably looked up at it and said, "Oh my God, it's so gaudy."
The building was centered around two asymmetrical courtyards. Gaudí wanted open and free-flowing space, so no load-bearing walls exist. Instead, he used a column and beam structure to give more open space in each apartment. The different sections on the facade and the interior of the courtyard comes from inspiration from plant cell-like structuring. The main materials used on this building were sandstone and concrete, with iron for the embellishments, along with what was called trencadis, or recycled ceramic pieces. The roof, or servant quarters, of the Casa Mila was a whole world of its own. It had walkways and arches, sculptures. The chimneys were sculpted to look like mythological creatures, and some of them had African-like masks on them. A favorite form from nature for Gaudí was the double helix, and as you can see, some of the chimneys have a twist to them. Gaudí wanted most of his structures to be freestanding. He saw flying buttresses as unnecessary support systems, and so in many of his pieces, he used what were called catenary arches, or arches that were hyperbolic or had a parabola-like shape, as we see here in the attic of the Casa Mila. Catenary arches are self-supporting arches that can stand great compression without bending the material. So you can use lighter material, but still support great weight. So you create a more uniform stress, placing the stress in the middle of each element. Gaudi used a system with ropes to model how the different arches will stress by hanging the rope or chain from its endpoints and weighing it with lead bags to show those stresses. Indeed, Gaudi's buildings inspire the viewer but go beyond to inspire other artists. Here we have the Einstein Tower from Potsdam, Germany, built in 1921 by Erich Mendelsohn. It is an observatory, and its texture of the facade and its smooth curves mimic the Casa Mila. The second building that we see here is the Hundertwasser House from Vienna, Austria, from Expressionist architect Friedrich Hundertwasser and Joseph Krowina, built in 1986. Hundertwasser was against the straight lines of a building, much like Gaudi. Gaudi was quoted to say that the curved line was of God and nature, and the straight line was made from man.
So, what can we say about Antoni Gaudi? Well, he was an innovator. He had many influences, but they all came together to form his own unique style that was organic and free-flowing. He spent much of his life dedicated to his work and his religion. His last days were spent working on his Piece de Resistance, the Sagrada Familia Cathedral in Barcelona, due to be done in 2026. Unfortunately, Gaudi died before it was finished. But his work still lives on. I'm Enid Pravinsky. Thank you so much for joining me. Toodles.